a new feature here on Tuesdays that we call our Top 5 Tuesdays, where every Tuesday we're going to take one theme, genre, director, actor, and we're going to run down our top 5 of that. And we're going to start off this thing with, well, one of the best, Steven Spielberg. We were just talking about him yesterday with the meetings he had at WB. What's it about? Nobody really knows what it was about, but we thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about the GOAT, the greatest filmmaker of all time, Steven Spielberg. And I'll tell you what, if you think coming up with a top 5 list of any kind is easy, maybe some of them are. Try putting together a top 5 list of Steven Spielberg films.
Tough.
It ain't easy, because you're talking about, listen to this. Listen to these movies. Indiana Jones where did it go? I just lost it. Okay, I'll get back to it in a second. War of the Worlds, Amistad, Munich, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, there it is. The Color Purple, the Sugarland Express, all these movies I just mentioned. None of them even in his top 15 when it comes to its overall critic rating. None of them even in his top 15, except Duel there is at number 15. If you go further down the list, there's some other, War of the Worlds, which a lot of people like. It's got a 75% critic rating, is number 22 on the list. AI, artificial intelligence, Empire of the Sun, which a lot of people really love. I really was completely charmed by the BFG. It's got a 74%. War Horse was an Academy Award nominee, 75%. That's his 26th ranked on Rotten Tomatoes meter of that. So when you're talking about the films of Steven Spielberg and trying to come up with a top 5, it's a difficult task, and made more difficult by the fact that you're probably going to change your mind every year about what that top 5 list entails. I'll tell you right now, 5 minutes before the show even started, Rob was agonizing over what his top 5 was actually.
I threw out my list.
He threw out his list and started again. So I'm going to start things off here with my top 5. All right, here we go. My number one is The Last Crusade.
Your number 1 Spielberg movie?
My number 1 Spielberg movie is
You're
The
not
Last
counting
Crusade.
back from 5?
No, I should have been, but I already have the number 1 there, so I'm doing that. Yeah. My number 1 is The Last Crusade. It's my favorite of the Indiana Jones films. I think it's, to me, my favorite pure adventure film ever. I've never watched a movie, all the Indiana Jones films do, but I've never had that pure sense of adventure like I did with Indiana Jones Last Crusade. That's my number 1. Number 2 is one that I often rank as my favorite Spielberg film, but putting together this list, I bumped it down to number 2 is Amistad. I love this movie, one of the most impressive casts that Steven Spielberg ever worked with in his entire career. The name of the lead in it.
Djimon Hounsou.
Djimon Hounsou, thank you. Djimon Hounsou. The world was introduced to Djimon Hounsou. He's still an incredibly prolific actor working today in the DCU and in the MCU, all over the place. I love Amistad, and that's probably the one film of Spielberg's that I find most people haven't seen. When I talk to people about different Spielberg films, I very rarely come across people who say they've watched Amistad. Anyway, next up, Schindler's List. Maybe this should just be in the number 1 spot. It is one of the seminal all-time Hollywood pictures. When people talk about movies that represent how great the movies are, Schindler's List is one of those films that come into play. And amazingly, like I always talk about how movies are experiential events. You tell me you can walk out of Schindler's List without being moved, the experience moving you. It's an incredibly powerful film, and Schindler's List is the number 3 on my list. At number 4, I'm going back, Jaws. Oh, yeah. I watched Jaws again during the pandemic because Anne had never watched it. And I realized, we got to watch Jaws. And we sat down and watched Jaws. And it's been a while, been a beat since I had watched Jaws. And I'm like, I forgot just how freaking brilliant this movie is. The performances, the characters, it's just all narrative driven. It's absolutely what it's about the human condition and man versus nature and all these types of things. Absolutely brilliant, brilliant, brilliant film. So I've got Jaws in my number 4. In my number 5 spot, I've got E.T., which I believe is critically his number 1, right? I think it's a 99% or something like that, but whatever. E.T. is just an absolutely magical movie. It stands the test today. I mean, some of the visual effects are a little tired, yes, but as a movie itself, it still stands up today, in my opinion. So again, my number 5 is E.T., my number 4 is Jaws, my number 3 is Schindler's List, my number 2 is Amistad, and my number 1 Steven Spielberg film, at least right now, Ask me again in 6 weeks, I might give you a totally different list, is The Last Crusade. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this episode, Amazon Pharmacy. Now, if you're anything like me, you dread going to the pharmacy. You never know what the hours are. You never know what you're going to pay. You're worried about being stuck in a huge line. And that's why you're going to love Amazon Pharmacy. Amazon Pharmacy delivers a better pharmacy experience that delivers directly to your door and works with most insurance plans. Amazon Pharmacy helps you save time, save money, and stay healthy. There's transparent pricing so you'll know exactly what you'll pay before you pay it. Prime members can also save up to 80% on their prescriptions. And like I mentioned earlier, Amazon Pharmacy works with most insurance plans. And this is one of the best parts. If you ever have any questions or problems, real pharmacists are always available at Amazon Pharmacy no matter what time of day or night. Your medication gets delivered to your door, so there's no more rushing out to the store hoping to get there before they close. Amazon Pharmacy is a pharmacy that works for your life, with meds delivered to your door. It doesn't get any better than that. Switch to Amazon Pharmacy and save time, save money, and stay healthy. Learn more at amazon.com/Campea. That's amazon.com/Campea. Average savings based on usage and Inside RX data as compared to cash prices. Average savings for all generics are 78%, 37% for select brand medications. Restrictions apply. So, Rob, that's my top 5. Let's go over to you. And you can start from 5 and work your way down here. All right.
First of all, I have to say that I threw out Jaws, Close Encounters, Raiders, E.T. Threw them out.
Garbage.
Rubbish. I mean, I've been watching them my whole life, and they mean something beyond movies to me. You know, they're part of my soul, those films, and they were formative in terms of why I love movies. But now, right now, the movies that I find myself going back to the most, as far as Spielberg is concerned, as an adult, number 5, Munich. I love Munich. I think the performances are incredible. It's tense. I mean, even Daniel Craig's in Munich. The moral quandary that movie poses.
So powerful.
I mean, it's incredibly well made. And again, when Spielberg moved into his quote unquote adult period, because people forget he got a lot of criticism for making escapist entertainment. And then anyway, number 4 is Lincoln. Lincoln was a movie that, when I bought it, I didn't see it in the theater. I couldn't believe I wouldn't go see a Spielberg film in the theater. I didn't go see it. It was on my Blu-ray stack forever. And I just kept moving it down. And when I finally watched it, I was blown away by this movie. Blown away by the performance.
Did you end up watching it like 4 nights
I
in a row?
watched it all week. I kept watching it. I watch it every night. I put it on. I was just mesmerized. I thought this movie was incredible. Everything about it I loved. I just loved it. Now, my number 3 movie was the movie that when Spielberg got a lot of flack for making this film. And at the time, Color Purple. Color Purple was only the second movie in my life that I ever cried in. I love The Color Purple. I know that some people say it was a romanticized version of Alice Walker's novel. I read the novel after I saw the movie. I love that movie so much. I love the cast. Oprah Winfrey will say that movie would not have gotten made unless Spielberg directed it. At the time, if times were changed to now, somebody would probably complain and cancel the film that Spielberg wanted to direct. But at the time, if you look at all the people he employed in that movie, all of them went on to be basically superstars. Everybody from Lawrence Fishburne to Oprah Winfrey herself to Whoopi Goldberg winning multiple Oscars. Quincy Jones's score. The film is incredible. The sound design of that, the cinematography. Alan Davio shot that movie. Oh my God, incredible! I love that film. Number 2, Schindler's List, for me. I love Schindler's List. I think an argument can be made that the opening scene, not the very opening scene, but the opening scene where Liam Neeson goes in and ingratiates himself to the German command, the Nazi command, is one of the best things Spielberg has ever done in terms of different techniques he used. Liam Neeson's performance is unbelievable. The whole movie's unbelievable. And I have to tell you something. And as a Jew myself, there's a lot in that movie that's like the Ben Kingsley relationship that he has with. Yeah. It's entertainment. I mean, it's a horrible, awful story. It's a hard movie to watch, but it's brilliantly made. It's absolutely brilliantly made. But as an adult, a movie, John, that when I first saw it, it annoyed the F out of me. My number one as an adult, a movie that I thought was way over directed when I saw it. I thought it was too over the top. Everything from John Williams' score to everything about it when I first saw it, I'm like, God, is now my favorite as an adult. I can't get enough of this movie.
I know what it is.
Empire of the Sun. Based on J.G. Ballard's novel about his own experience in World War II. I mean, everybody from John Malkovich, I think Ben Stiller, is in Empire of the Sun. And Christian Bale's incredible score. The Williams score, Cadillac of the Sky, P-51. I can't get enough of that movie as I've gotten older. And again, a movie that's about a kid lost in Shanghai and a nuclear bomb goes off in that movie, and I still find it to be exceptional.
All right, so just to highlight here, Rob's top 5 for Spielberg is number 5, Munich, number 4, Lincoln, number 3, The Color Purple, number 2, Schindler's List, number 1, Empire of the Sun. We each given our top 5, we only have one movie that's shared on our list, and that's Schindler's List. So let's go over to Christian now. Christian, this is not an easy task.
It's not. And
Coming up with the top 5 for Spielberg. So what would be your top 5?
Tintin, 5 through 1. I actually do love that movie. I do love that movie very much, but no, it's not on there. We have a similar bottom 3, John. My 5 is, and again, it's a matter of whether or not it's not just an enjoyment and blending with how it was made and impact that it had on me. That's really where I went with this list, is the impact it had on me as watching it as a kid, watching it later on. So number 5 is Jaws. I'm not a big horror fan. This is a horror film, but it is absolutely a thriller as well. And it's just what he did and how he did it with the story making. And it was basically his coming out party, Spielberg, to say, this is what I'm going to be able to do. And you look back at it, and that it was made in 70, or it came out in 75, and the fact that it still holds up today, as you said, you watched it with Ann, and it has that impact. That's why it hit number 5 for me. And number 4 is E.T., because of the impact it had on me as a kid, remembering being online with my mom for that movie and how it wrapped around block, and believing that this animatronic was a real alien, and the relationship. I just saw something recently with Drew Barrymore talking about how she thought it was real and what Steven Spielberg did for her. Because she thought it was real, like anytime she would go over to talk to it, he had the people who animated it.
Oh my God, really?
Dee Wallace told that story.
Yes,
I saw that it was
yes.
on Drew's show.
So Steven Spielberg made sure that anytime that little Drew Barrymore was around, he made sure that they moved her around and made it interact with her, so she thought it was real because of that. But you felt
awesome.
it as a kid. You felt it as what Henry Thomas did in that movie, and the music inside of it, and it's fantastic. So E.T. is at my 4. This is the other one that we all have, and that's Schindler's List at 3. Schindler's List is not an easy watch, as everyone knows. I cannot go back. It's one of the movies it's very hard for me to go back and rewatch.
I can't. Yeah.
It's very hard, but whenever I feel like I watch it every maybe 8 or 10 years, or maybe whatever it might be. It's 6 years, whatever. And when I watch it, it's the same feeling every time, and it's exactly what you said. It's beautiful. It is powerful. It is, to me, his Mona Lisa. It really is probably his best film that he's ever made, because of how much obviously it meant to him and in general, and it's just it's a masterpiece. It really is. But it's my number 3, obviously, because it's a hard watch.
Yeah,
as we know,
it is a hard watch.
Number 2, it was almost my number 1, and that's Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark to me is one of the best Spielberg movies, but best movies of all time. It is a pure adventure. To me, it is what made Harrison Ford a star. And I know, wait, you're a Star Wars fan. You think Han Solo? Absolutely, Han Solo was the first one, the introduction to him. But what he did as Indiana Jones is he made you forget he was Han Solo.
Yeah.
And that was the magic trick, because no one thought he was going to do it. They thought that Tom Selleck was going to be the guy to do it. And they said, well, you can't have Han Solo play this guy. Everyone's going to think Han Solo. Nobody thought it was Han Solo. Everybody thought he was Indiana Jones. And to me, that's what it really showed how big of a star he was. But everything, there's just certain movies that are just seems like they were supposed to be. And that movie, from everything, from the idea on the day on the set when he realized that shade should come in, and how he's introduced when he shows up with Marion, and I mean everything about it. I can watch that anytime that movie is on. I can watch it. If I'm in the middle of doing something important, I will stop doing that to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love it. However, I think that the movie to me that is the most impactful for me is one that you guys haven't even mentioned, and that's Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan to me was a movie that I remember going to see. It was the same year that Lethal Weapon 4 came out. And I went to go see it, and I was actually my first time ever in Los Angeles. I was staying here was at some film program, and we all went out to see something. They're like, "Oh, we're going to see the Saving Private Ryan." I'm like, "I want to see Lethal Weapon 4, whatever, something along those lines." And sitting down and that opening scene,
Oh, dude,
is just. I felt like I was on the beach. I felt like I was going through it, but it was the overall. It was everything, and Tom Hanks and the way that him and performances from Vin Diesel, Ed Burns, like the way that they all banded together, and at Giovanni Ribisi, like I just watched it recently to see, do I still love this movie as much as I think that I do? And it was like, yes, it is. It's one of those, even though it's as powerful, not I shouldn't say as powerful, but it has the same kind of weight and in the drama that it's like a Schindler's List. It's at the blend of what Spielberg does, where he can do those big blockbuster movies like a Jurassic Park. I was like, nobody's mentioned Jurassic Park. There's just so many movies. But he can do something so deep like a World War II movie with not just that scene, but what it also meant about the band of brothers that he ultimately went to produce as well. So that's my favorite Spielberg movie.
You know, it's funny. There's something about Saving Private Ryan at the end when the siege is coming, when the Germans are coming.
Yeah.
The sound of the German tank.
The sound in that movie, man.
And the sound design is one of the great.
Yep.
It's one of the great. Again, talk about setting up a sound system. That, and I'll never forget. Like sitting in that theater, I was like, it was terrifying, waiting for those. Where are the tanks going to be?
Well, it wasn't just the tanks. You had the gramophone playing too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the sound in that movie is out of control.
Now, here's the thing. Listen to this. And I was about to mention Saving Private Ryan, so I'm glad you put it on your list, because with those lists that we just put together, and only one movie do we have on all three of our lists. That was Schindler's.
Yeah.
I think I probably could have guessed that would be the one. None of us mentioned Catch Me If You Can,
Right.
which is one of his highest rated films
Almost.
ever. None of us mentioned Close Encounters of the Third Kind. None of us mentioned West Side Story, which I think is a top 3 or 4 best directed movie
Agreed.
ever of all time.
Yeah.
None of us mentioned Jurassic Park, like you were just mentioned. None of us mentioned Minority Report. None of us mentioned things like The Post. None of us mentioned Temple of Doom. None of us mentioned
Ready Player One.
Ready Player. I love Ready Player One. I love that movie.
But see, John, I would say for me, like I said, Jaws, Close Encounters, Raiders, and E.T., I retire those movies.
Right.
Because those movies belong
They're
in
usually
heaven.
always on your list.
Yeah, they belong in heaven.
Yeah.
They have ascended to God status, and they're not even, I can't talk about them anymore because everybody's talked about them so much.
And there's some films of his that had Best Picture nominations that we never mentioned. Films like War Horse.
Yeah.
Again, I'm glad that you brought up Tintin.
Yeah, I like that movie.
A lot of people love Tintin. I love Ready Player One. I mean, and of course, well, Ray, go ahead. Tell us which movie we're missing on our list. No, you got to say it. Everybody's waiting for it. What's the movie we're missing?
Terminal, baby.
Oh,
That's
Yep.
Spielberg for adults.
That's
When you guys grow up, you'll understand how great that movie is.
scroll up. Kaylee, let me ask you. There's a whole. If you had to pick out of Spielberg,
He's still recovering.
If you had to pick like the Spielberg film that is for you the Spielberg film, which one do you think it would be?
My favorite movie of all time is Saving Private Ryan.
hey.
It's my favorite movie of all time. So that's my number 1. My number 2 is Catch Me If You Can. Number 3 was Schindler's List, and then Jaws, then Jurassic Park.
Good list.
Right. Well, you put a couple on that we said weren't on the list at
Yes.
all. Catch Me If You Can. People love. I mean, this is part of when you look down that list and all these films we're mentioning. They're so diverse. They're so different. They're all different kinds of stories, and that's why I think.
Hell,
Steven
I love
Spielberg
Bridge of
is a great
Spies,
cineast.
dude.
So did I. That was another one nominated for Best Picture, I believe.
Mark Rylance, Rob Stallone.
Rylance got nominated for an Academy
Won it.
Award for that. Oh, yeah, that's right. He won that
He
one,
beat
didn't he?
Stallone, yeah.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What would your top 5 for Steven Spielberg look like? Maybe be the same as one of ours, maybe completely different. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and put your top 5 Steven Spielberg there.